Smoke rose from the burnt trees as the battlefield lay silent. The war between humans and the alien Volari had raged for years. But now, after the last big fight, there was only ruin and death. Sergeant Logan Pierce walked through the broken land. His rifle heavy in his hands, he had lost contact with his unit after the surprise attack. The comms were down, his map was ruined, and he had no way to call for help. He kept walking. One foot in front of the other, each step echoed with pain in his boots. Blood dripped from a cut above his brow, but he didn't stop. His training told him to survive, to regroup, but deep down, something felt wrong. This wasn't just a defeat. This was a trap. Then he saw her. Lying in the mud between broken trees and metal scraps, a figure tall, glowing faintly even in daylight. She was wearing silver armor cracked and stained with blood. Her face was beautiful, alien but graceful, and her white hair spilled across the ground like snow. Logan raised his gun on instinct. But something made him pause. She wasn't moving. Her breathing was shallow. Her body broken. He stepped closer, carefully. Her chest rose and fell slowly, and he could see the deep wound near her side. That's when he saw the symbol on her chest plate. His eyes widened. It was the royal crest of the Volari. She wasn't just a soldier. She was their queen. Every order told him to kill the enemy. Especially someone this important. One bullet would change the war. But instead, Logan lowered his rifle. "I should leave you here," he muttered. But his heart pulled against his mind. He couldn't do it, even if she was the enemy. Even if she would have killed him without blinking, he just couldn't. Carefully, Logan kneeled beside her. He checked her pulse, weak, but still there. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled out a field bandage. He wrapped it around her side, stopping the worst of the bleeding. "You better not die," he whispered, even though he knew she couldn't hear him. Then came the hardest part. He slung his rifle over his back, took a deep breath, and lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, but the armor made it hard. He grunted, his muscles aching, but he didn't stop. Step by step, he carried her through the woods. The trees cracked around him, and distant sounds of drones made him freeze. He ducked under fallen trunks, slipped down muddy hills, and crossed broken rivers every few minutes. He checked her breathing, still alive, still holding on. Night came fast, and the cold air bit through his uniform. He found a small cave and lit a low fire with shaking hands. He placed her gently on a bed of dry leaves, her face pale. She still hadn't woken up. Logan sat nearby, eyes scanning the darkness. Something inside him felt strange, like he had crossed a line. He wasn't sure what he had done. He had just saved the queen of the enemy. Back at command, they would call it treason. His name would be cursed. But sitting here, beside a dying alien queen, none of that mattered. She wasn't a monster. She was just hurt, just like any soldier. Suddenly, her lips moved. Logan leaned closer. She whispered something in her own language, too soft to understand. Then, she opened her eyes. Golden, glowing, and full of pain, they locked onto his. And for a second, she looked confused, then afraid, then angry. Logan held up his hands, showing he had no weapons out. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said softly. She blinked slowly, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. But then, her voice came again, clearer this time. "Why?" she asked. "Why save me?" Logan didn't have an answer. He looked into her eyes and simply said, "Because I couldn't leave you there." The queen closed her eyes again, her breathing steady. Logan leaned back, watching the fire flicker. He didn't know what would happen tomorrow, didn't know if she'd heal or kill him the moment she stood up. But for tonight, they shared the same fire. A soldier and a queen. Two enemies, lost in war, but no longer strangers. The fire was dying when Logan woke up. Ashes blew softly in the cold morning wind. He looked over and saw Hertha Alien Queen still asleep, her breathing steady. He rubbed his aching shoulder, remembering how far he had carried her yesterday. And today, he would carry her even farther. The Queen Valari didn't speak when she opened her eyes again, but she watched him closely, like a predator trapped in a weak body. Logan offered her a small piece of protein bar. She hesitated, then took it slowly, never breaking eye contact. "I'm not your enemy right now," Logan said, voice calm. "You're hurt. And we're far from both our people." She didn't answer, but her silence said more than words. She knew he was right. He made a rough stretcher from broken branches and rope. She refused at first, trying to stand, but her leg gave out immediately. Logan caught her before she hit the ground. "You either let me carry you," he said, "or you die here," reluctantly. She climbed onto the stretcher, her pride clearly wounded more than her body. Logan tied it to his back, adjusted the straps, and began walking again. The land was rough, full of broken trees, smoldering craters, and the smell of smoke and metal. They walked through valleys of ruin where the war had torn everything apart. Dead machines lay like skeletons, both human and Valari tech, rusting side by side. Once, they passed a fallen Valari airbike, still glowing faintly. Logan stopped to scavenge parts and food from its storage panel. Valari watched him in silence, surprised by how carefully he handled even her tech. "You treat my kind's tools with respect," she said suddenly. Logan looked back at her and shrugged. "I'm not here to insult you," he replied. "I just want to get you out alive." She looked away, clearly confused by his kindness. Later, they reached a wide field, once a farmland, now turned to ash. Logan froze as he saw movement ahead. A small patrol of drones hovered in the sky. Valari scouts. Scanning the area, he dropped to the ground. Pulling the stretcher with him, they hid behind a rusted tank shell, both barely breathing. Valari grabbed his arm, whispering in her native tongue. "They'll kill you," she said. Logan gave a small smirk. "They'll kill you too." He answered, "We're in this together now." When the drones passed, they continued moving. Hour by hour, step by painful step, Logan's legs burned, his hands were cut, and sweat soaked through his uniform, but he didn't stop. Not once. That night, they found an old water station, long abandoned. It had half a roof and a dusty cot. Logan laid her down gently, then collapsed nearby. Breathing hard, Valari stared at him, her voice soft for the first time. "Why?" She asked again. "Why risk your life for me?" Logan stared at the ceiling for a long moment. "Because you're alive," he said. "Because someone has to stop this cycle of killing." There was a long silence. Then she whispered, "My people would never do this," Logan replied. "Maybe that's why your people are losing." She didn't argue. For the first time, her expression showed doubt in the middle of the night. Logan woke up to the sound of rustling. He reached for his knife, but it was just Valari, crawling toward the water unit. Her strength was returning, but not her pride. She sat beside him afterward, her silver eyes reflecting the dim light. "I was taught all humans were monsters," she said. Logan gave a tired smile. "Guess I missed the lesson on being one." They sat quietly, breathing the same dusty air. In that moment, it didn't feel like a war anymore. It felt like something older, something simple to survivors trying to understand each other. By the time dawn came, Valari could stand with help. Logan built a better support brace for her leg, using parts from the broken station. She leaned on his shoulder and they walked again, slower, now but closer. They didn't speak much, but when they did, wasn't about war or death. It was about small things, stars, food, old songs, even memories. Valari confessed she had never seen the surface of Earth before, only war reports, images from orbit. Now she walked its burned forests, touched its broken machines, and leaned on one of its soldiers. And for the First time, she didn't feel like a queen. She felt human. They were still far from safe, still being hunted, but something had changed. A line had been crossed, and neither of them wanted to go back. The rain came slow and cold. It dripped through the trees and soaked the cracked earth below. Logan and Valari moved through the forest, her arm over his shoulder, their steps uneven but steady. They had been walking for 2 more days, hiding during the day and moving at night. The war was quiet in this part of the land, but the silence felt heavy. Like a storm waiting to return, Valerie's strength was coming back. Her wound had stopped bleeding, and her steps grew more firm each hour. But Logan could see another wound. One he couldn't bandage. It was behind her eyes, a sadness, a weight that didn't go away that night. They found shelter inside the ruins of a crashed human transport. Metal beams twisted like vines, and broken lights flickered weakly. Logan lit a small fire with some scraps and shared his last ration pack. Valerie took it without a word, and sat across from him. The flames cast orange light across her face. She looked at him for a long time, then finally spoke. "I was betrayed," she said quietly. Logan looked up, waiting, "My own counsel. The ones who swore loyalty to the throne, they tried to have me killed." Logan didn't speak. Letting her continue, "They said the war would end if I died," she said, her voice cold but trembling. "They wanted the humans to destroy us so they could rise in the chaos." She paused, then whispered, "I was nothing more than a symbol to them, a figurehead, a name on a flag." Logan nodded slowly. "I've seen the same thing," he said. "Leaders sending young men to die just for maps and numbers." Valerie looked into the fire. "I was raised to believe I was above them, chosen by blood and spirit. But in the end, I was thrown away like a broken tool." There was pain in her voice, but also anger. And under that, something new, something like shame. Logan leaned forward, his voice calm. "You're not a tool," he said. "You're a person, same as me." Valari looked at him, surprised, "Even after everything my people have done to yours?" She asked. Logan shrugged. "Pain doesn't care about species," he said. "We all bleed. We all lose people, and we all get lied to." She was quiet again. Then she said something that caught him off guard. "I don't hate humans anymore," she said. "Not since you." Logan didn't reply, but his eyes softened. There was something between them now. Not just survival, not just peace, something deeper. The next morning, they reached a rocky hill where an old Valari supply shelter was rumored to be. Logan scanned the area with stolen binoculars. Valerie leaned against the rocks, her breath shaky. "Are you okay?" Logan asked. She shook her head. "I haven't slept properly in days," she said. "My body is healing, but the dreams, they won't stop." Logan hesitated, then placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You're safe here," he said. "As long as I'm breathing, no one's gonna hurt you." She looked up at him again, and her eyes filled with something strange. Not just trust, but need, a deep, painful need to be seen, to be more than a queen or a weapon, to be a soul. They broke into the shelter together. Inside was dust and broken equipment, but also a working med station. Valerie sat down and began the scan herself, her fingers glowing with her own DNA code. The machine clicked and hummed, treating her wounds with soft light. Logan turned away. Letting her have her moment, he didn't watch as the machine healed her cracked ribs, her burned skin, but he could hear her breathing calm. Her heartbeat slow. After it was done, she stood beside him, stronger now, still alien. Still queen, but no longer broken. "You didn't have to do any of this," she said. Logan smiled. "Faintly, I know," he replied. "That's why it matters." That night, they sat on the hill, stars shining above them. Valerie looked at the sky and pointed to a small blue star. "My home world is there," she said. Logan followed her. "Gaze, I wonder if they miss you," he said. Valerie shook her head. "They never knew me," she said. "Only the crown." Logan looked at her. "Well," he said, "I think I'm finally seeing the real you." She smiled, just a little. The first real smile he had seen from her. Not forced, not proud, just real. In the quiet night, surrounded by the remains of two broken worlds, a human soldier and an alien queen sat together. Not as enemies, not as royalty or soldiers, but as two people, healing. Asterisk, the sky turned red as the sun set behind the jagged mountains. Logan stood at the edge of the rocky ridge, watching for movement. His rifle was slung over his back, but his hand rested near it. Ready, every sound made his muscles tense. Every gust of wind felt like it could bring death. Behind him, Valerie sat inside the broken Valari outpost, her silver armor now cleaned and patched. Her wound was healing fast, thanks to the med station. But something inside her remained broken. She stared at the flames, her fingers trembling. Not from pain, but from memories. Logan walked back in and handed her a bottle of clean water. She took it slowly, her voice quiet. "Do you trust me now, human?" Logan gave a short nod. "More than I trust most people," he replied. She looked away, her voice turning sharp. "Then I must tell you something that could get us both killed." He sat across from her, locked onto hers. "I'm listening." He said. Valerie reached into a hidden pocket on her armor and pulled out a small crystal. It glowed with a faint blue light, like a living thing. "This is a beacon shard," she whispered. "It connects directly to my royal fleetif. I activate it. They will come." Logan leaned forward, frowning. "Then why haven't you used it already?" Valerie looked down, her voice shaking now. "Because if I call them, they will kill you. They will see you as a threat, a kidnapper, or worse, a spy." The fire crackled between them. Logan stayed silent for a moment, then said, "Then don't use it." Valerie looked at him with wide eyes. "You'd give up your chance to go home." "For me, I've made it this far," he said. "I'm not leaving you behind." She didn't answer, but her hands clenched tightly around the shard. Then, for the first time, Logan saw something he never expected. Valerie began to cry, silent. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she turned away. She covered her face with one hand, shaking as the sobs came. Logan stood there, frozen. He had seen her fight off pain, bleed in silence, and command with steel in her voice. But now, she was just a person breaking in the dark. He moved closer and sat beside her. Slowly, carefully, he placed a hand on her back. "I don't know what they did to you," he said softly, "but you don't have to carry it alone anymore." Valerie turned her face to him, her eyes red with emotion. "I was supposed to die in honor," she said. "I was raised to never show weakness. Never cry, never love." She took a deep breath, the tears slowing, and yet, here I am, weeping before a human soldier. Logan gave a faint smile. "Well," he said, "I'm not just any soldier." That made her laugh, a small, broken laugh, but real. Then she leaned her head against his shoulder, and for a while, they just sat there. Two worlds leaning into each other. The next morning, Logan woke up to the sound of distant engines. He ran to the ridge and looked through his scope. 3 aerial scout units, Valerie Tech, heading their way. They were moving fast. Scanning the area below, he rushed back inside. "We have a problem," he said. Valerie stood up instantly, her tears forgotten, her voice royal again. "They've found us." Logan grabbed his gear, helping her brace her leg again. "We have to move now," he said. She nodded, slipping the shard back into her armor. But before they left, she turned to him. "If we are captured," she said, "they will separate us." Logan looked her straight in the eyes. "Then I won't let them capture us." They ran through the rocks and trees, hiding under thick roots and behind broken statues of old Volari watchtowers. The scouts circled above, their searchlights sweeping through the fog. Then one beam landed directly on them. A loud siren echoed through the valley. They had been spotted. Logan raised his rifle and fired at the scout drone, hitting it twice before. It dodged behind a tree. Valerie grabbed his arm and pulled him toward a cave hidden behind a waterfall. Inside, they collapsed, panting, soaked from head to toe. "They're going to call in a kill squad," she said. Logan turned to her. His voice steady. "Then we'll fight." Valerie stared at him in silence. Then, slowly, she reached forward and took his hand. "I once saw humans as animals," she said. "But you? You are more noble than any royal I've ever known." Logan held her gaze. "And I see you, not as a queen or an alien, but as someone worth dying for." She gripped his hand tightly. "Don't die," she whispered. "You gave me tears." Human. "Now let me give you a promise. I will protect you too, in the darkness of the cave, surrounded by enemies." They made a vow. Not just of survival, but of something deeper, something stronger than war. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like lightning and wet stone. Logan and Valerie stood on the edge of Red Cliff, a jagged plateau above the valley. Below them was nothing but fog, rocks, and the sound of incoming engines. They both knew what was coming. The Volari kill squad had arrived, and they were not coming for mercy. Logan adjusted the straps on his gear and handed Volari one of the few remaining charge packs. "We hold here," he said. Volari nodded, her silver eyes focused and sharp again. "No more running," she said. "This time we make them bleed." They set up defenses quickly. Broken stones became barriers. Trees became cover. Logan checked his rifle. Wiping mud from the barrel, Valerie pulled out her energy blade slender. Glowing and deadly. "They won't expect us to fight," Logan said. "They expect us to beg." Valerie replied, "Let's disappoint them." The first scout landed minutes later, a black-armored Valerie trooper. He scanned the cliff and raised his weapon, then dropped instantly from Logan's shot. More followed, leaping down from airskiffs, fanning out to surround them. Valar moved like wind, her blade slicing through two attackers in a blur. Logan covered her back, his aim sharp and fast. Their enemies fell, one by one, but more kept coming. A grenade exploded nearby, throwing Logan to the ground. His ears rang, and blood ran down his arm. Valerie screamed his name. Slicing through another trooper before rushing to him, she dropped to her knees, pulled him back to cover, and placed her hand on his chest. "You're hurt," she said, her voice shaking. "I've had worse." Logan muttered, trying to smile. She tore off part of her armor and pressed it against his wound. Then she stood, her blade trembling in her grip. "You carried me for 30 miles, she said. "Now let me carry this fight." Logan tried to stop her, but she was already moving. Valerie leaped into battle with a cry that echoed through the cliffs. The wind carried her voice like thunder. She was no longer just a queen. She was fury in motion. The Volari soldiers hesitated, some even fell back. They had never seen their queen like this, not on a throne, not in a ship, but burning with rage and loyalty. Logan pulled himself to a better position and fired into the crowd. He watched her move, fast and fierce. Every time he thought she would fall, she rose again. Blood stained her armor, smoke clung to her skin, but she did not stop. Then the commander arrived, a massive Volari war captain, twice her size, covered in thick gold armor. He stepped over his fallen troops and raised his hammer. "Traitor," he shouted. "You disgrace the crown." Valerie raised her blade, her voice steady. "You disgraced it first." They clashed. In the middle of the cliff, sparks flew. Rocks cracked beneath their feet. Logan could barely move, but he shouted her name, urging her on. Every strike shook the ground, but in the final moment, Valerie ducked under the hammer, drove her blade through the captain's chest, and ended it. Silence fell. The last enemy dropped his weapon and ran. Logan looked around. The cliff was littered with broken armor and scorched earth. They had one. Valerie rushed back to Logan's side. Dropping to her knees again, his eyes were half closed, but he was still breathing. "You held the cliff," he whispered. "We held it together," she replied. She wrapped her arms around him. Pulling him close, for the first time, she felt small, not because of fear, but because she had almost lost the one person who saw her for who she truly was. "I couldn't lose you," she whispered. "You didn't." Logan said with a weak smile, "I told you." "I don't leave anyone behind." Valerie pressed her forehead against his. Her fingers tightened around his hand. In that moment, the war didn't matter. The throne didn't matter. Only the soldier in her arms. And the promise they had made. They stayed there until the stars began to rise. Logan slowly drifted into unconsciousness. Valerie lifted him carefully into her arms, holding him as he had once carried her. This time, she would be the one to walk, to protect, to fight for his life. And no one human or Valari would take him from her. The stars above Red Cliff shimmered like quiet witnesses to the battle that had ended below. Valerie held Logan in her arms as his body trembled from pain and blood loss. He was alive, but just barely, and she knew she couldn't wait any longer. She reached into her armor and pulled out the shard, the beacon shard she had once feared to use. It glowed. Now, as if sensing her decision, she whispered a code into it, ancient and royal. Then looked down at Logan's pale face. "Help is coming," she whispered. "Hold on." Within minutes, the sky above began to stir. Clouds pulled apart as a sleek, dark Valari vessel appeared. Cloaked in light and shadow, it descended like a phantom, silent but full of power. When the ramp opened, 6 Valari royal guards stepped out, weapons ready. They saw their queen, wounded and stained, carrying a human. Their eyes widened, but none dared speak. "Prepare the healing chamber," Valerie commanded. Now, the guards obeyed without question. She followed them inside. Still holding Logan close, his blood soaked into her royal robe, but she didn't care. Inside the ship, the medtechs rushed to take him from her, but she refused to let go. "I stay with him," she said sharply. "He lives or none of you do." The chamber sealed and glowing. Lights filled the room. Machines scanned his wounds, injecting nanites, stitching veins, restoring breath. Valerie stood beside him, never blinking, never leaving. Her hands stayed in his, even when his body convulsed from pain. Hours passed. The crew watched in silence as their queen sat beside a human like a devoted guardian. Word spread quickly through the ship about the man who saved her. The battle at Redcliffe, the broken crown that rose again. When Logan finally opened his eyes, he saw only her. Valerie smiled, tears in her eyes again. "You're safe," she said. "You did it," he whispered, voice barely there. "We did it," she replied, gripping his hand tighter. Days later, he sat up in bed for the first time. His body was weak, but healing. The room was large and filled with strange, glowing plants. Valari design, soft and peaceful. Valerie entered. No longer in battle armor, she wore a deep, violet robe, elegant and regal. But her eyes were warm. "Looks like I'm in alien heaven," Logan joked weakly. Valerie smiled and sat beside him. "You're on my flagship," she said. "And you're the only human who's ever been here without a collar." He looked down, confused. "I thought they'd lock me up. Or worse, they wanted to." She said, "But I made it clear hurt you, and I burned this ship down myself." Logan blinked slowly. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." She laughed softly, then leaned closer. "The truth is," she said, "you're not just a soldier anymore. You're part of something bigger now. He looked at her carefully. "What happens next?" he asked. Valar took a deep breath. "We return to the capital," she said. "My council is waiting, and they know what I intend to do." "And what's that?" Logan asked. She looked into his eyes, serious and calm. "I will offer peace," she said, "but with one condition." He waited, heart racing. "You stand beside me when I do," she said, "as my protector." She paused, then added, "as my mate." Logan's breath caught in his throat. "I'm just a soldier," he said. "You're a queen." She leaned forward, her voice soft but fierce. "You carried me through 30 miles of death," she said. "You fought for me, bled for me, trusted me when I didn't even trust myself. There's no title that compares to that." Silence filled the room. Then Logan reached out and touched her hand. "I don't know if I belong in your world," he said, "but if you want me there, I'll follow you." She smiled with a fire in her eyes. "Then we walk into it together." The Valari capital shimmered like a living jewel. Floating towers spun slowly in the sky, surrounded by glowing rings of defense and honor. Ships moved silently in formation, carrying the colors of royalty and war. But today, those banners would witness something new, something no one had ever dared before. Inside the grand hall of the High Palace, hundreds of Valari nobles stood in rows, eyes cold, armor polished, voices hushed. They had heard the rumors. The queen had returned, alive, stronger and with a human at her side. The doors opened, and silence fell. Valerie walked in first, her crown restored, her wounds healed, her gaze sharp and proud. Beside her walked Logan Pierce, dressed in ceremonial silver lined with royal violet. His human boots echoed across the crystal floor. Every step forward felt like walking through history. Some Valari nobles flinched at the sight of him. Others narrowed their eyes. But none spoke, not yet. They reached the throne platform. Where the royal council waited, 12 figures stood, each wearing ancient symbols of the empire. Valerie stepped forward, and the hall held its breath. "I have returned," she said loudly, her voice ringing clear. "I was betrayed, hunted, left to die." She paused, turning slowly, "but I was not alone." She looked at Logan and extended her hand. "This human Logan Pierce carried me across the killing fields," she said. "He protected me when my own guards did not." A wave of murmurs rose across the room, shocked whispers and disbelief. But Valerie continued. "He is not just a soldier," she said. "He is the reason I am alive." The High Chancellor stepped forward, his face unreadable. "You bring a human to our sacred chamber," he said, "and speak of peace after all that has happened." Valerie stared directly at him. "I speak not only of peace," she said. "I offer a future." The room fell silent again. "We can keep bleeding across galaxies, destroying homes, burying children," she said. "Or we can try something different." She turned to Logan and took his hand. "I will not rule through hatred anymore," she said. "This man is not my weakness, he is my strength." Logan stood straight, eyes scanning the council. He wasn't a king or a diplomat, but he had walked through fire with her. He had seen the broken and the beautiful sides of her world. And he had stayed. He spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I didn't come here to change your world," he said. "But your queen changed mine." He looked around. "Maybe it's time we stop seeing each other as monsters," he said. "Maybe it's time to walk side by side, even if the path is hard." The council looked stunned. The silence stretched long, until one of the younger nobles stepped forward. A woman in silver and green armor bowed her head slightly. "If the queen believes in him," she said, "so do I." Another followed, then another, one by one. Members of the council bowed, their voices joining together. "All hail Queen Valari. All hail the shield of two worlds." Valari turned to Logan, her eyes shining. "You've changed everything." She whispered, "No," he said. "We did it together." The ceremony ended in roaring applause. But the real celebration happened hours later, when Valerie and Logan stood at the city's edge, watching two flags rise side by side, Valari and Earth. Not as enemies, not as rulers, but as partners. Children in the street danced, some with human faces, some with alien eyes. Music played from both worlds, blending into something strange but beautiful. And above it all, a new story began. Not of war, but of a journey. Of a soldier who carried a queen. And of a queen who carried hope. Valerie slipped her hand into his as the stars blinked overhead. No throne matters without someone to share it with, she said. Logan smiled, and no war is worth more than peace. Together, they walked down the stairs of the palace, step by step, toward a future neither of them expected, but both of them chose, not as queen and soldier, not as alien and human, but as two hearts, beating the same rhythm, on a road built not with blood, but with trust, and every step they took built peace.